Uh, Obviously, I don't want to name any names, but I
Yeah, of
definitely
course.
know what you're talking about. A lot of players do have this mentality where they just disrespect the opponent and think they can play anything into him. So you end up getting a lot worse draft because people are just cocky. A lot of people just have egos. So yeah, definitely, if there's power picks, it's power pick for a reason. Mostly because the champion's OP, and even if you counter pick it, it's still going to be bonkers in team fights. So yeah, I agree with your statement.
Zazento from Esports Heaven, and I have here with me Svenskeren from Evil Geniuses. Now, you guys just played a pretty good game, actually, pretty convincing, also with Rumble in the bot lane for Zazel. So just kind of talk to me about that. Was that kind of a spontaneous idea, or has this been like in the works for a little bit?
I think Zazel has been playing Rumble for like a really long time, so it's just become the meta now that on bot lane, if you have Senna AD carry or support or whatever you want to call it, then you can just play whichever you want. Zazel can just play whatever he wants there. Like he can take any tank or just take Rumble and take the farm, So looks good.
That's good to have a flexible support for sure. So, and then of course we had Bang on Senna. Now, Senna's been popping up quite a bit within the meta and everything, but how is it from your perspective having a Senna within the team composition? Because it's not traditionally, a traditional ADC in the sense that it gives a high sustained DPS. So what is that like for you when it comes to team fights or Baron objective control?
Well, I mean, I think Senna is just really strong because she has so long range. If she gets a lot of souls, so you kind of win the standoffs. Like if you're fighting for mid party, you usually always wins if you have Senna because she just has poke and she has sustain. So she's pretty nuts at that. But yeah, I mean, her Baron is really bad. So usually, if you have Senna, you see people winning by Dragon Soul because taking Baron just takes forever with Senna. So you can't really rush Baron. Like if you have an Aphelios, you usually always win because you're doing Baron, but with Senna it's because you're dragons usually. So it's just kind of a shift, and I think most teams are used to that by now. So you don't see people trying to do Baron with Senna because they just can't.
So against Golden Guardians, you did get the first Drake, and then you guys rotated your bot lane to top, and to me that sounds kind of telegraphed in a sense, not because every team is obviously doing that shit, but in the idea that if you do pick Senna, then you are trying to get Dragon priority. So do you feel like that makes your game plan or everyone who chooses Senna vulnerable in that sense because you're going to try and get bot lane priority?
No, I mean, it's just a strength. Because if the enemy team can't contest, then it's just one less lane they can play off of. I mean, they can play through top, but then they're just losing dragons, and eventually we'll win the game by getting dragons, So, I mean, having Senna is pretty strong.
Yeah. How do you feel with this particular meta in terms of the actual lane swap of bot to top? Is it like reminiscent of the old school days of lane swaps, or how do you view, I guess, the current meta in that situation for you?
No, I mean, it's just pretty confusing because at 8 minutes the Rift Herald spawns, so it's earlier, and usually around that time it's just when you hit 6. So you see jungle just barely hitting 6 at 8 minutes, and your support and AD carry sometimes they're not even 6 yet, and they might just get 6 just in time, So it's usually whoever can get 6 first actually win on the swap there, and I mean, getting the first Rift Herald is really important because you can really just press your advantage and force them to match you, because if you are trading, like it's trade sides, and you have Rift Herald, you're always going to win because you're so much faster.
Yeah.
So they can't really push the other side. So yeah, I mean, getting the Rift Herald is just really good if you're losing because you can force the enemy team to react, and also if you're winning, it's just really good too. So it's always good.
Do you feel like you have less impact this season than before? I mean, I'm talking to the literal, MVP. So do you feel like your power level has kind of dropped down just because of the meta?
I mean, it's not only just the meta, it's also just that junglers is worse now than it was in the past, so like you just fall behind eventually in experience. Even though they buffed it, like you still see junglers being level 12 to level 18 in the late game. It's like you're never gonna do anything in the late game as a jungler. Like if you're on the losing team, you can never do anything. So you just gotta hope that you're winning the early game, you know, like make something happen in the early game and be in the winning team.
Okay, so you think that's why we're seeing teams play a lot more aggressive play style, is because as a jungler you have to get something done early?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, with the jungler picks that's being played, you're not really, unless you're playing Sidrani or Trundle versus Sidrani, you're not really outscaling as well. So a lot of teams, they prefer to just try to win through early game rather than just scaling, because I mean your solo lanes can play to scale, but as a jungler it never feels good to just wait for late game.
Yeah. So let's address the coin flip narrative that seems to perpetuate within, you know, the fans' analysis or even the actual analysts when it comes to looking at evil geniuses. Do you think there's any grain of truth to that, or maybe even akin to what we were talking about before about the meta being quite aggressive? Do you think that's an attribute to why people view you as such, or your team, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to speak about it, but I mean, I would say we are kind of coin flippy. I mean, as well as our drafts as well. I feel like sometimes we get an insane draft and there's no way we lose the game, but then other times we also get a draft that's just, we literally cannot win the game. So it's definitely up to the players, like me as well, to make sure we get a good draft and get something we're comfortable on, because I think a lot of our games in LCS, we actually pick stuff that we just weren't as comfortable on. So yeah, I mean, it's just important we take and learn from the losses, and if it's gameplay related or if it's draft related.
So I talked with someone about this before, but it's the idea that a player can say, "Oh, I can play anything. You know, I'm good at every champion. Go ahead. You know, I'll just wait or let them have this powerful pick. You know, let them have Ornn. Like, I don't care." Has that happened within your team maybe, and that's why you would have bad drafts, or?
Obviously, I don't want to name any names, but
yeah,
I definitely know what you're talking about. A lot of players do have this mentality where they just disrespect the opponent and think they can play anything into him. So you end up getting a lot worse draft because people are just cocky. You know, a lot of people just have egos. So yeah, definitely, if there's power picks, it's a power pick for a reason. Mostly because the champion's OP, and even if you counter pick it, it's still going to be bonkers in team fights. So yeah, I agree with your statement.
So there's a lot of Lee Sin mains in this league. I mean, I guess good Lee Sin players. So you, Broxa, there's Blabber, you know, there's Dardoch. Who do you think is the best Lee Sin in North America, like including yourself, I guess?
I don't know, to be honest. I feel like it's, I don't know when to pick Lee Sin right now. I feel like I can just kind of pick Lee Sin every game, because it doesn't really matter what I pick, is what I feel like. So Lee Sin is like pretty safe. I'm not gonna feed. I can do play sometimes, you know. Like I'm not just gonna be useless. The enemy team still has to respect the Lee Sin, you know. So yeah, I mean, it feels pretty useful, but as to who's the best, I mean, you can't do Lee Sin versus Lee Sin, so it's hard to judge, you know. I mean, you can play in like, I can play Lee versus Sidrani, and then the other guy can play. I can play Sidrani versus Lee next time and see who gets the most advantage, you know. But it's really hard to judge. Okay. I mean, I think my Lee Sin personally is the best, but the other guys are probably going to think their Lee's better. So yeah, depends who you ask.
So lastly, I want to touch on Cloud9 because they're doing really well, and also Blabber was your protege, and he's doing incredibly well. First, do you think he would do this well? I mean, because the narrative around him was that he was like this enter, win you the entire game type player. Do you think there was any truth to that in the very beginning anyways?
I mean, I think Blabber still has this playstyle where he's not scared of starting the fight, and I think C9 is really just playing well around it. And I mean, Blabber's playing really well because the team is looking really insane too. So
Yeah.
they're all following up on his players, and usually they just have such a big advantage when it comes to mid game. They're always up like 7k or something. Though even if they do make mistakes, like they're still winning every single team fight. No matter how the team fight starts, you know, they're still gonna win the team fight because they just have such a big lead. So I don't think Tudayan has really been tested enough to like call anyone an inter on the team. Like I think they're playing really well as a team right now, and it just shows how much work they put in the offseason, I think, and just quickly realizing how the meta is right now. I think they just kind of got the playstyle on lockdown where they get the first dragon and then they swap for rift and they get the first rift as well. I think they just always do that, and it always works for them somehow.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope Evil Geniuses can catch up, kind of be in contention at least. This has been Azento from Esports Heaven and Svenskeren from Evil Geniuses. Thank you.
Thank you.